Meeting of Monday, March 6th, 2023 will come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Another big crowd. Welcome to all the visitors. We need an approval of the agenda, which you all have a copy, and the bills and claims. So I guess motion for that, please.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have first and second. All in favor, say aye, please. Aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. We move on to the consent agenda. The minutes of February 21st, 2023. And I see we have a resolution, 23-13, a resolution setting the date for a public hearing on a proposal from William Yan, 463B North Shore Drive, to amend the official land use and zoning map of the city and rezone the parcels 060720100300. It's a mouthful. And 060725100600. Also, and we'll do a voice vote on that in a little bit. Approval of the bills and claims, which you also have a copy, and licenses and permits. Liquor license, Class C retail alcohol license, Best Western Holiday Motor Lodge renewal. So if I could have a motion for that, please.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Dana with the motion, Bennett with the second. And I think with the resolution in here, we need a voice vote. So Mark?
Yes.
Mike? Yes. Gary?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Now we move on to the citizens' opportunity to address the council on any items not on the agenda. This is not an opportunity for question and answer. It's just an opportunity to speak to the council. Please walk to the lectern, state your name, spell the last name and address, subject to your discussion, and speakers are limited to no more than 5 minutes. None appearing, we will move on. Unfinished business. A, 2023 Lake Time Subdivision Urban Revitalization Area Plan. Any explanation with that, Mr. Flory?
Nope, I just, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, this is a third and final reading on that ordinance establishing the tax abatement district urban revitalization plan for 2605 South Shore Drive, that subdivision there. So as we mentioned previously, it's a 5-year tax abatement on the first $75,000 of assessed value onto the property. So it equates to about $1,200 a year per year for 5 years on that. So again, tonight's a third and final reading on that one.
Thank you. So I need a motion on ordinance 875, an ordinance designating an area of the city of Clear Lake, Iowa as the 2023 Lake Time Subdivision Urban Revitalization by the council. And this is the final of 3 readings. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, council? Oh, okay. I think we're into another voice vote here. So Mike, yes. Gary?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay, page turn. New business. Final plat, Evergreen Cove, Cerro Gordo County. Review by Scott Flory, City Administrator.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'll just run through the items in the packet with you here real quick on this one. First, kind of yellow tan sheet there in the packet, it's a resolution approving the Evergreen Cove subdivision, Saragordo County. The next green sheet that follows that's a copy from the county, Saragordo County zoning subdivision ordinance, or zoning ordinance rather, for the R2 single-family residential district. Just again identifying the uses that are permitted within that particular zoning district. There's a note on there says all the uses that are permitted in the R1 district. So if you continue to flip, we also included the zoning district for R1, which again shows principal permitted uses, and primarily you'll see their single-family dwellings. Some other things like public and parochial schools, colleges, academic institutions, public buildings, and those kinds of things. But again, single-family dwellings, kind of the main item in that one. The next sheet in the packet, the big 11 by 17 white sheet is the final plat for Evergreen Cove to Saragordo County, prepared by WHKS and Associates, the consulting planners and engineers for the landowners. And on the back side of that is, again, just the layout. You can see the properties being subdivided into 3 lots, and lot 1's about 27,000 square feet, lot 2 is about 23,000 square feet, and lot 3 is about 33,000 square feet. So just in terms of background, I think we've done a number of these over the years where these subdivisions that lie within 2 miles of the corporate limits of the city, we have the extraterritorial subdivision review authority. So we review these in compliance with our code and the various sections of the Code of Iowa. So this is, again, the property owner is Malsby Marine Properties, LLC. As I mentioned, they've submitted this for review to the county. It's been forwarded on to the City of Clear Lake, and also Ventura will also review this matter as well. It's located just west of 4749D South Shore Drive in Saragordo County. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this February 28th at their meeting. It's forwarded on their recommendation that the subdivision be approved by the City Council. The County Planning and Zoning Commission will review the plat. Its regular meeting on March 2nd, and the City of Ventura has already reviewed the proposed subdivision plat. And following both those reviews, then Saragordo County will review the subdivision plat proposal and take action on that. As I mentioned, the zoning designation of the property is R2, the single-family residential. So that's not going to change as a result of this subdivision plat. Lots are currently served for sanitary sewer purposes by the Clear Lake Sanitary District, and for water purposes, they'd just be served by a private well since there's no municipal water out there. And there is one access that will serve all 3 lots off onto the main roadway. So I don't have anything further in terms of any background on that, unless anybody has any questions.
Council, any questions with this situation? Okay, thank you, Mr. Flory. So now need a motion to approve Resolution 23-14, a resolution approving Evergreen Cove subdivision.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion by Mark, seconded by Dana. Any discussion, Council? Okay, once again, we have a voice vote. Gary?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Mike, yes. Motion carries 5-0. B, Emerald Edge Subdivision Final Plat and Development Agreement Amendment. Once again, Mr. Flory.
Thank you, Your Honor. Council, the first gold sheet in your packet addresses this. This is a resolution approving the final plat for Emerald Edge First Subdivision, and then accepting the public improvements that are shown on the final plat. On the back side of that gold sheet is a certificate of completion that was filed by the project manager with McClure Engineering, just again attesting that all the work was done in conformance with the plans and specifications that were prepared for the project. The white sheets, again, follow that, are just a copy of the final plat for Emerald Edge First Subdivision. Then on the next sheets following that, you'll be able to see the 7 different lots that are laid out there, as well as the 1 outlot. These lots are generally about 1.5 acres in size, with the exception of lot 1, which is about 6.5 acres, that's owned by Hy-Vee Corporation. The purple sheets to follow that is an amendment to the development agreement, and I'll kind of go over that here in a little bit, but just in terms of some background information on this one, if you recall, this goes back a little ways. The Planning and Zoning Commission had reviewed the preliminary plat for Emerald Edge subdivision at its regular meeting on October 26th, and then that came before the council on September 6th of 2022. And in between, there were a number of items that needed to be addressed related to stormwater improvements in the drainage district, DD 40, I think, is jurisdiction over that one, as well as DOT review of Jade Street intersection with US Highway 18. DOT had some things that we had to work through there, so that was the reason it took between October and September to have that completed. Again, just in the way of some review, it's approximately 64-acre commercial development. As I mentioned, there's 7 buildable lots, generally with the exception of Lot 1, again, about 1.5 acres in size apiece. Sukup Ag LLC is the owner of the property to be subdivided, with the exception of Lot 1. Of course, that's owned by Hy-Vee Corporation. In terms of the zoning, property zoned CI1 intensive commercial and also RM20 multifamily residential. Again, at the meeting on February 28th, the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the final plat for Emerald Edge subdivision and is recommending that the council approve that final plat for Emerald Edge subdivision. Just a small number of punch list items that need to be completed, but nothing significant there. In terms of the amendment to the development agreement, if you recall back in December of 2021, the city had approved a development agreement with Sukup Ag LLC, and in that we're providing certain incentives for the subdivision, and upon completion of the construction and acceptance of the final plat, the city would reimburse the developer for pipe main material costs for water main and sanitary sewer main materials. So in total, that was about $86,000 was the limit prescribed in the development agreement. Additionally, it's proposed to amend the development agreement and reimburse the developer 50%. So that amount would be $35,855 for pipe material for relocation of the 60-inch storm sewer that goes around Lot 2. To the west right-of-way line of Jade Street, roughly about 355 lineal feet, $202 a lineal foot. So total cost on that was $71,710. So what we're proposing is to reimburse the developer for 50% of that now, and then 50% upon the sale of Lot 2 for development purposes. So additionally, it's proposed that the development agreement be amended to provide for partial reimbursement for the turn lane on Highway 18 following the anticipated development there on Lot 3. So total overall private investment between Sukup Ag LLC and Hy-Vee in the development of this subdivision is in excess of $3.2 million. So a very significant amount of resources put into this project. So, city does have a development agreement. Just want to remind you with Hy-Vee that is on the books, and that has technically expired as of December 31st, 2022. But I did have some conversation with company representatives, indicated to them that we would be willing to honor that for a little bit longer here. But if they had not made progress on starting the project, that we would by August, we would take action to rescind that development agreement and take it off our books. Just a reminder, it has a cumulative value of about $1.4 million. So a significant development agreement for sure. So guess I don't have anything further in terms of background information on either the final plat or the amendment to the development agreement, unless anybody has any questions.
Council, any questions? If I'm not mistaken, all the underground work you were referencing has been completed.
Yep, everything's completed, all that. So the gas and electric is just about ready to be energized, and we'll have the street light component that we're working on. So, and I think Jeremy's going to report on that. We've got a pre-construction conference set up for that, and otherwise it's pretty well ready to go.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So we need a motion to approve Resolution 23-15, a resolution approving the final plat of Emerald Edge subdivision.
So move.
By Gary, second by Mark. that we approve, or that we vote on this resolution. Any discussion, council? Okay. Voice vote. Bennett.
Yes.
Dana.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Mike, yes. Gary.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. On to C, fiscal year 24 maximum property tax levy.
Don't we have a motion on the First Amendment?
Sorry, missed that one. I didn't have it as a voice vote, and I have my voice votes all in order, so I don't get that screwed up, so. Been a while since I've been in this driver's seat, so you gotta give me a little room here. Okay, thank you. A motion to approve First Amendment to Development Agreement by City Council. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Motion by Mark, second by Gary. Any discussion? We need a voice vote on there, just all in favor vote. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? And that one also passes 5-0. Now, on to Creighton Schmidt, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. At our prior meeting, the council set the date for the public hearing on the proposed maximum property tax levy. I believe at that time, we had discussed the state had passed their Senate file and that they had made the change for the residential property tax rollback from approximately 56% down to 54%. There's actually a change of 1.85 percentage points. So they have made that change now officially, and they have also pushed the budget certification timeline back to April 30th this year. So usually at this meeting, we'd already be going over the budget, probably I've done it a couple times by now, but we haven't done that because of waiting on this. And so now we are going to go ahead, of course, tonight and do the public hearing for the maximum property tax levy. And then in the next couple of meetings, we'll do the budget review and we will go from there. That change that they made had approximately $200,000 of impact to our revenue. It won't significantly change what we've set forth in our budget, so all the expenditures and everything that we've looked at should remain basically the same, and will just have an impact to our year-end cash balances. In 2020, the Iowa legislature passed Senate File 634, which is a requirement of cities to hold a public hearing and pass a resolution to adopt the fiscal year maximum property tax dollars. So that is what we are doing tonight. If those requested dollars exceed 102% of the dollars collected in the current fiscal year, the vote to approve this resolution must be a 2/3 majority vote. Ours is increasing 13.66%, and the increase there is because of the increase in valuation. Our actual property tax rate is going to be declining from a 9.7 to 9.65, and that's with the debt service levy thrown in there. On the gray sheet here where it sets out the maximum property tax levy, you'll see the 1.5998 last year to the 9.15842 this year, and that is the tax rate without the debt service levy. So once you put that in there, that's where it goes from the 9.7 to 9.65. And the total maximum dollars here is 6.5 million, and that's the one that would be decreasing by approximately $200,000. But this is the maximum, so we are okay with that change. And that is all I have.
Council, any questions of Mr. Schmidt? Well, thanks for all your number crunching. I'm glad I'm not doing it. Okay, we will now open the public hearing section of this process. And if you have any comments, please make your way to the podium and identify yourself and make your comments. Doesn't appear anyone's going to make their way up there, so I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dana, second by Bennett, to close the public hearing. Any discussion, council? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes 5-0. And now, on to, I guess, the really important one, the motion to approve Resolution 2316, a resolution approving the maximum property tax dollars for the fiscal year July 1st, 2023 to June 30, 2024 for the city of Clear Lake, Iowa. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Gary, seconded by Mark, that we approve this. Any discussion, council? I guess I'll make a comment just so Creighton feels better. Anyway, this is the 16th one of these that I've been involved in, and the numbers keep getting bigger. Our assessed value keeps going up, and I guess the amount of things that we've been able to spend on and accomplish has edged up somewhat, but hopefully, I think we've been pretty cognizant of trying to be good stewards of the public funds, and I think the way this is planned out for next year, it'll work out that way once again. So anyway, thank you, Creighton and Scott, for hammering through all of this and getting us in a position where we can take this vote and move forward on this coming fiscal year. So thank you. Okay, we're back at the voice vote, and I guess we're back around maybe to Mark.
Yes.
And Mike, yes, and Gary,
Yes.
and Bennett,
Yes.
and Dana.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Page turn. Surf District Oaks Hotel Development Project. Mr. Flory.
Thank you, Your Honor. Council, refer to the pink sheets in your packet. There's the first pink sheet's a resolution. Authorizes an economic development blight remediation forgivable loan agreement with the North Iowa Cultural Center and Museum, and authorizing an internal advance for funding of a forgivable loan thereunder. So this is very similar to the arrangement that we had with Snyder Partnership LLC for the Hilltop Motel demolition project. This one pertains, of course, to 464 and 468 North Shore Drive. Of course, that's in one of the city's urban renewal areas. So this would be a forgivable loan and an amount not to exceed $50,000 to pay for a portion of the cost necessary there to that extent to demolish 464 and 468, so the Fiddler's Lounge and the shack, the surf shack as we call it. So that would be demolition, asbestos removal, water and sewer disconnects and capping, site preparation, private utility disconnects, and those kinds of things. So some of the covenants that we have in the yellow sheets are the actual economic development forgivable loan agreement that would be entered into between the city and the North Iowa Cultural Center and Museum, the nonprofit, the 501c3 that operates Surf Ballroom. So essentially what we're asking for here is that the Music Enrichment Center construction development project be completed and operational not later than March 1st, 2025. The demolition project, again, I outlined that a bit earlier, but we want that completed by December 31st of this year. So possible that, For sure, the Fiddler Lounge would be coming down imminently. The Surf Shack building will stay up for a while and may stay up. They may want to keep it a little past that, not sure yet, but generally the requirement be by the end of this year. So again, the payment on that would be made incrementally. So as the properties are demolished and the site prepared and utilities are disconnected, the developer, in this case, again, the North Iowa Cultural Center Museum, could then file for partial reimbursement based on the work that's completed at that point. And they have to document all of the invoices and bills and claims that they paid associated with all of that. But so they don't have to wait until the entire 464 and 468, the entirety of that project is completed before they be reimbursed for those costs. So again, under Section 3 of the development agreement, we kind of outline all of that. Again, we basically, again, say within 30 days, the completion of the demolition of, in the one paragraph, the Fiddler's building, that we would agree to submit payment back to the North Iowa Cultural Center Museum under the forgivable loan disbursement request, the amount that was incurred for the undertaking of the costs associated with the demolition of that project, and same thing again for the Surf Shack. As I mentioned, each forgivable loan disbursement request then has to be accompanied by the appropriate documentation indicating and detailing the costs that were incurred, like I say, such as invoices and other documentation that we would determine reasonable to identify those costs. And again, I think the estimate that we have for the work on this project is about $44,000. So we've put a not to exceed cap on this of $50,000. The forgivable loan is accomplished through over the course of 3 years, forgiven incrementally each March 1st, starting on 2026 through 2028. So we have that built into the agreement that essentially 1/3 each of those marches will be forgiven on that amount necessary for the demolition of the project. So then on the back side, towards the end of the yellow sheets in your packet, again, there's the copy of Exhibit A that we've used for the previous project, just again identifying the invoices and statements that are to be attached to this and the amount of the request that is submitted by the developer for reimbursement for each of those two parcels. And also the developer is required to sign, in this case, a promissory note indicating that their compliance with the development agreement is contingent upon those dollars being forgiven back by the city. So. And I think the very last part of that, again, is just you'll see the schedule of forgiveness on that page 8 of the development agreement. Like I mentioned, for each March 1st, starting in 2026, 2027, 2028, we'll forgive 1/3 of that amount each year for those 3 years. So I don't have anything further on that unless anyone has any questions. As I mentioned, I do anticipate talking to the developer that the Fiddler's property is going to come down pretty quickly. So the shack, Surf Shack, will stay up for at least through the end of the year.
Have to mention that I read the wrong line. Thank you for zooming up. Mark and Gary are trying to keep me on the straight and narrow here, but
Don't worry, boss, I got you covered.
little out of practice here, but anyway, fortunately, these aren't irreparable mistakes, so we're moving forward.
As long as you're signing my paycheck while Nelson's gone, it's
There
all
you
good.
go. We'll consider that. Anyway, any questions for Scott on this circumstance? All right. So, thank you. All right, based on that, we need a motion to approve Resolution 23-17, a resolution authorizing economic development forgivable loan agreement with North Iowa Cultural Center and Museum, and authorizing internal advance for funding of forgivable loan thereunder by the City Council. Motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Bennett, second by Dana. Any discussion, council? Okay, and since I got crossed up here, we're gonna make sure we get everyone a chance to vote first. So we're gonna start with Dana this time.
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes.
And Mike, yes, and Gary?
Yes.
And Bennett?
Yes.
Once again, motion passes 5-0. And now, on to the Surf District Oaks Hotel Development Project. This time, Mr. Creighton Schmidt.
Thank you again. Hopefully this one's a little bit more exciting than the budget numbers. Of course, we are working with the North Iowa Cultural Center and Museum to develop a new Oaks Hotel, a new reimagined Oaks Hotel for the Oaks Hotel that burnt down in 1922. And so as part of this project, we have decided to take on a hotel asset manager. A hotel asset manager is involved in many stages in hotels. Actually, when I worked in Marriott hotels, I would always work directly with asset managers at every property that I worked for. Their role is really as a hotel expert. They've been in the field for a long time, and their role is to kind of be the in-between person between the owner, and they represent the owner, of course, but then between the owner and the manager of the hotel. So they help guide investment decisions, they help guide operational decisions, and again, they're an expert in this space and have been doing it for quite some time in most cases. So we engaged CHM Warnick. It's actually a group that I've worked with before. They also work with a lot of different public entities that own hotels. So for example, Chad Sorensen, who would be on our project, also is involved with Des Moines Hilton, which is owned by Polk County. And he's also involved with the Coralville Hyatt, which used to be the Coralville Marriott, which is owned by the city of Coralville. So lots of expertise in that area, which is helpful. We met via Zoom, a group of us and a group of that were representing the North Iowa Cultural Center and Museum, and kind of just talked through the project. He gave his feedback. He's originally from Iowa, very familiar with Clear Lake. He's been here a few times, so he was excited to be a part of this project and said he dropped his rates a little bit. I don't know when you look at the proposal. But this is really for the first phase. So I think even in his proposal here, he outlines that there would probably be 3 phases even before the hotel opens. And so this first phase is for them to really start collecting data. They will use things like the hotel study that we already had done by Paytech Hospitality, but they also look at, again, the market conditions. They have a lot of their own numbers that they will use, and I believe he referred to his as a dynamic investment model. So they start to look at, say right now, we had originally thrown out 60 rooms, and at a point, the actual Oaks Hotel had 45 rooms, so we kind of settled on that 45 rooms. Well, they'll look at it a little bit differently and say, okay, here's your fixed cost, here's your variable cost, and adding more rooms, and what does that look like from an ROI perspective, and what do they recommend for an actual number of rooms in the hotel. They'll look at what amenities should we offer in this hotel, should there be some type of food and beverage. So they go down the list, and then they're also experts as far as we've talked about needing to have a hotel operator, hotel manager. And so they're very well connected with hotel managers. So we have a specific, we're looking for a boutique style, so they'll know which operators do these boutique style and which have been successful at operating these type of hotels. They'll also look at the possibility of branding the hotel. So should it have a Marriott name on it? Should it have a Hilton name? Go down the list there, tell us what the cost would be for each of those. So they would start doing all that work behind the scenes right now. We've tentatively scheduled April 12th for a day for them to come here. They'll visit the other hotels in the area, but then we'll also have a very long day meeting with them where we start looking at everything that they've put together and start kind of building the timeline, what we think the direction will be as far as a brand, as far as a manager, and then we'd go on for maybe phases 2 and phase 3 with them even before the hotel opens. Our idea currently is that we would have an asset manager probably up until the time the hotel opens. Some hotels, usually bigger hotels, continue that relationship. We might not need it, but we'll see kind of how this goes and how the operation of the hotel goes. But this is kind of that first step there. So what we have here is the professional services agreement with CHM Warnick to be considered by the council.
The only thing I'd add to Creighton's remarkable background on that would be that I think there's a lot of value in having the asset manager on board. We have obviously not, with the nonprofit, selected an architect for the project yet, but we'll do that in partnership with the nonprofit. But I think having that asset manager on board, as I've kind of learned more and more through this whole process and talking to Chad and others going through here, a lot of value in having that person and their eyes reviewing all of this when we're designing the hotel. There's just a number of decisions that go into that expertise is going to pay far more dividend than what the cost of those services are going to be. I mean, there's just a number of things that we talked about already that I think unless you do this extensively, as in hundreds and hundreds of times, you would miss some of these things that can be very costly down the road. Just decisions that are made regarding how it operates, what kinds of amenities go in and should not go in. So,
And I think he also mentioned that in a couple cases, unfortunately, owners did not have an asset manager in the beginning, and then they're brought in maybe a year into after the hotel was operating. And at that point, you're trying to fix something that was already broken. So they had picked the wrong strategy and had the wrong manager and all this, and now they're coming. And of course, that's a lot harder to do than getting it right the first time. So that's what we're going for, is getting it right the first time.
You referenced a Des Moines and an Iowa City circumstance that, from what I could understand, are similar to what we've got.
Yes.
Have both of those ended up being successful partnerships?
They are I think, I don't remember, do you remember how old that Hilton is?
only a
Maybe
couple years old.
a few years old now, so that's a newer one. And they were actually brought into the Coralville Hyatt when it just transitioned to a Hyatt. And I've heard and actually experienced firsthand that the experience of that hotel is doing really well. They had a transition from Marriott to Hyatt, which is a difficult transition, lots of change in staff. And Chad was involved in that whole project, and the city of Coralville is very happy so far.
Yeah, well, this is all completely new to us, and I'm glad to have your background to help guide us through this with 10 years with Marriott. So you understand the vernacular a lot better than anybody else sitting here. So that's going to be quite helpful. Any questions of Creighton Council?
Yeah, Creighton, I applaud you for, I checked on these guys. They seem to really have their act together.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Lots of properties.
One question, how involved in construction are they? Construction phase when we get to that point.
Right, yeah, that's kind of a future phase, but I think even the decisions that they're looking at this point as far as who we need involved in that construction and kind of who's the lead person will be very crucial for the project as we move forward to making sure that the right players are in place. And then they're involved the whole way through, though.
Absolutely, absolutely. That construction manager, whatever title he has, is really a key. So their recommendation, I would assume, would be greatly highly thought of.
Right.
Any other questions, comments, Council? Before we move on. Just one comment, and those of you that have been suffering along with me for many years understand that I can't help myself on these. This brings back to mind the Central Gardens property. Now, there were 3 different schools on that, and they all burned. So it seemed like a good idea not to have another school there, and a garden's working out really well. This had a hotel that burned, but we've already broken the curse because the hilltop never burned.
There we go.
And so I feel better. And of course, that has nothing to do with this, but every once in a while, we got to keep it light here and see if we can keep John awake over there. Okay. Anyway, I guess we're ready for a motion to approve the professional services agreement with CHM Warnick by the City Council.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Gary, a second by Mark. Any discussion, council? Okay, we just need all in favor, say aye. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. So, we're on to Chief Roth.
Thank you, Your Honor, Council. In your packet or in your, I think you got a supplemental report added to your desk tonight is our annual report for 2022. As you can just see right off the bat on the first page, there are our calls for service actually dipped down about 1,400 from 2021 to 2022, but we can attribute that to two factors. One is our actual calls did come down about 600-700 over the year from people calling in for us to do police matters. And secondly, we were down about 6 employees over the year, so that does ripple out to traffic stops, business checks, so that does kind of affect that number as well. So it's not a bad thing that it was down, so it means less crime, and that's good for the community. If you want to I'll just kind of touch base or just touch briefly on each one of these boxes. If you have any comments or questions, please ask. Our arrests were about the same from 2021, even though the number of charges went down. So that was unique for that year. Our traffic stops came down about 200, 300 traffic stops, but our citations were kind of in that same ballpark, 621 tickets issued as opposed to 690. Our parking citations kind of remained steady. We were at 756, but 2021, if I remember correctly, that was the year we had the new signage up at Tourist Park, so we were down there quite a bit with cars that were parked there. And then we kind of got that 5 to 5 taken care of, so that kind of leveled it out. And if I remember correctly, without Jeremy's, we had a couple snows in 2021 that we didn't have in 2022. That the bulk of our tickets come from snows and from that parking area down there by the landing. No surprise here, our golf cart and UTV permits continue to rise every year. A big significant rise in 2022 was because of we had some businesses that were renting these vehicles now, so one may have 10 golf carts there for one business as opposed to one household having one golf cart. So, 20 to 30 of them were actually probably from businesses or rentals.
I was going to ask Pete, and your experience on that, in terms of per household, do we have any situations where there's more than one permit per household?
If there is, it's very rare. Usually they have a UTV or a golf cart. They don't usually have both, but I don't think it's, if they do, the one may like a golf cart, maybe on a golf course that they never take on the street, but I'd have to go back and check the address, but it's rare. Our incident reports did also come down because, again, the calls for service were lower, so you can see that our criminal incident reports dropped a couple hundred. Something to note, it's kind of funny, is our records requests still remain pretty high, even though our calls for service went down, our reports went down. The number of requests coming in for our records are about the same as 2021, and we're still seeing a lot of demand for reports from our agency. you turn your page, we just kind of highlighted some employee milestones, Officer Shade's retirement. We were very excited to have Paige Conklin join our officer ranks from our dispatch center. And then if you look at our new hires, we had some good dispatchers and officers hired in 2022, and we just couldn't be more happier with what we have working with right now over at the PD. 3 of these officers were already certified, and they're on their own. And, well, Blaine will be on his own here very, very quickly. And we've just had nothing but just positive remarks from the public that the officers deal with and from the employees themselves, that they're just happy to be here. And again, we're very excited that we're looking forward to a nice summer with a good staff this year. So, and then Samantha will be done at the academy, I believe, in April. So she's kind of right in the middle of her academy right now. So the next page is the DCI report for offenses and arrests that we did in 2022. Our total offenses were down from 627 to 533, so about 15% difference from 2021. So that's good news. I will just say that I only put this in there just for your information only. This is what we report to the DCI, who then again reports that to the FBI. So this is a public report that anybody can get. So I just wanted you to show that's what's out there that we report to the state. The next graphs are just the actual physical phone calls, whether it's admin, administrative, or 911 calls. So total call volume last year was 21,755. Again, this is a mix of 911 and just 2186 calls. They were down from the year before. I don't have the actual number from last year listed there, but it's just kind of funny that Friday and Monday seem to be our busiest days we take phone calls. I don't understand why Saturday wouldn't be there in the summer, but Friday and then Monday is always 1 and 2. And then on the back, our busiest times of the day, just by call volume, are 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. We get a lot of phone calls, and then from 9 a.m. to 10. I don't understand why that is, but that tends to be our high-frequency number of calls there. So, and then of course, on your last page of that packet, you'll see just sort of the way the numbers balanced out for 2022. So we did find that we were trying to rush our numbers to the council quite a bit. We weren't accounting for some straggling data to come through, so we're going to kind of slow that down a little bit. I know we have January and February to get to you, but we're going to kind of take some time in March just to make sure we're getting some good data in there and kind of get these false numbers to be corrected there. So we're going to slow that down a little bit, but again, we're getting more dangerous with our CAD and our records management system there, so we're very excited about how that's going forward there. So that's all I have on that, unless there's any questions.
Pete, were there some changes with the UTVs last summer?
The only change that really affected us was no permit fee, like we could not charge a fee for that, and I believe you had to make sure you had a horn, if I remember correctly off the code. The law still has not been actually published yet. I just have a Senate file or a House file that I go off of, but other than that, you still have to have a permit to drive on streets in Clear Lake. There are still prohibited streets you can't drive on. You can only drive sunrise to sunset unless you're doing very specific activities that the state code allows you to do. So that was the only change. So otherwise, you still need to get a permit. And we don't, if you had a permit from last year, you can just do it online. The inspection is, if nothing's changed, we'll have it all done virtually as opposed to having to go to your house and inspect your vehicle. So, and that number will come down this year too. Our golf cart and UTV inspections will drop dramatically because we're just doing that virtually. So we won't be sending someone to your house to check it if you haven't had any change on your vehicle or anything. So, any other questions about that?
Any other questions, council?
You have then the community service officer job description in your packet too to discuss if there's no questions. This is something that we've worked with the city on for the last, gosh, it seems like it's been ever since Creighton got here, but we're excited to get this finalized, and we have it budgeted. Hopefully it will go through in your budget hearings here coming up this month. We would like to hire this person here before our summer events really start, but this is a part-time position. We're looking at someone to kind of help us with some of the calls for service that kind of bog down the officers, but are still kind of a priority to our community, which are parking, nuisance calls, animal control, and event setup and tear down. So the job description's written kind of specifically to working the events, working weekends in the summer. Also, between 20 and 30 hours, we have to be under a certain number of hours on an average work week to make sure it's still part-time by the federal government. But the job description's in front of you. Once approved and the budget gets approved, then we'll advertise for this position, and we're really looking forward to having someone come on and help us with some of these other areas, so especially parking and the nuisances that we can work with Mike's office if he's still there.
Council, any questions about that description of the community service officer?
Yeah, chances are, I'm betting, man, the budget's gonna get approved. Why can't we go ahead and start looking now? We've got, what, two more to go through, Scott?
Yep.
But, and then it's another, I don't know why in another week or two, definitely after the second go-around, let's start looking if we want to go that route. I don't think anybody here is objecting to that.
Probably the anticipated start date wouldn't be until after April 30th anyway, so I mean,
Yeah.
I think we'd be covered with that.
But that's coming fast.
Let's hope, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could certainly put it out. I'll get the green light from City Hall, and then we put it out there, and we can start interviews. They still have to do a background because of
Yeah,
some of
right.
the stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, those take time, you
Yeah.
know.
You're probably looking like a May start date.
The major events really don't, the try is where we're kind of zeroing in on that person really to be on the ground running. You know, some training, you know, get
Yeah.
them into, get that, him or her into that position. And
Just throw observations all I'm throwing out there.
I'll talk with City Hall about this week.
Any other comments or questions, Council? Good idea, Gary. I mean, it'd be very important to have this person hitting the ground running before the summer
Yeah.
mob shows up, so. Thank you, Chief Roth. Once again, going back a few more years in Clear Lake than most people around, I remember the police office down where basically where the yacht club building is now, and small building, 2 squad cars, I think maybe 5 officers, and, Mayberry comes to mind. But, we have a very professional police force with some wonderful training right now, and it's good to see them at full staff again, so thank you. Mr. Kornberg, Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. One update, the Emerald Edge Lighting project, we have our pre-con conference March 8th at 11 a.m., so Wednesday morning. So we'll go over a lot of details there. I know there is a little bit of questions about the control cabinet, but we'll get those covered in that meeting and see what we can do in regards to that. So we'll have a lot more information. I know the contractor is kind of chomping at the bit to get working. We were down there last week looking at the area. It's kind of a soupy mess right now, so it might be interesting to get any work done right away, but they're ready to go. So that is good. Any questions on that project? The only other update I have is obviously one of the big things in town right now is potholes. We are out as time and conditions allow. The freeze-thaw cycle right now in the mornings has been a little tough to go out and do much work for potholes in the morning with the ice and the water that are in the potholes, as well as the low temperatures make it a little tough for our cold mix truck to get heated up to get that stuff in the condition to get it in the potholes. But we have been out there in the afternoons and during the days trying to get some of those filled. There's for some reason, this year is an incredibly bad year. And I don't know if it just has to do with the amount of ice and we got this winter causing some of those conditions. So, yeah, we've been getting calls and telling us where potholes are and stuff. We are noting those and making notes and lists. And so we will be out as time and conditions allow and continuous. So hopefully this weather that they're projecting later in the week doesn't actually hit us and we can keep going. So
Just to add the area that we have slated for resurfacing later in this year, boy, that area needs it bad.
we got right on 12th and 2nd, we got kind of by the Marion Park area, pretty good. I know down by the school has some bad spots, so I don't think we've gotten down that direction yet. But even the concrete on 8th was bad this year. I don't know what caused it, but. So,
I've noticed on the interstate, really bad as well.
Yeah, I think Bennett was talking about.
Both directions,
I-35
north and south.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop using it.
Yeah,
Crying out
it's
loud,
terrible.
horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if you have questions or people bring it up, we're trying to get after it as much as we can. It's just cold temperatures in the morning make it tough, so. Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you. Creighton, anything for the good of the order here? Spin through the whole budget? No, that's next week or
Oh,
two.
yeah, that's next week. One more item for your consideration tonight, though. It is the last item in your packet there. It's in pink. Jim Jackson and I have been working on ordering equipment for the Everybody Plays Park. And one item we came across was the benches in the park and what our strategy was gonna be for those benches. And so there's about 12 benches that we have planned there. And so rather than just doing a couple and hoping that the rest kind of fill in with the memorial type of benches, we came up with a strategy to do all memorial benches, and then we will have an area for a plaque. So even if it's not already dedicated by the time the park opens, someone could pick a bench in the park, and then we could have the plaque affixed to that bench. So as we were looking at that, we came across what the city of Ames was doing for their Adopt a Bench program. And so right now you can adopt a memorial bench, of course, for parks around the city. But it's not defined as far as what happens at the end of that bench's useful life. So this kind of does a better job of laying out what that looks like. So in this particular process that we've outlined here, if you were to donate a bench to the city or adopt a bench, you would have that bench in place at that park for a period of 15 years. And that means that'll be your bench for the 15 years. If something happens to it, if it's vandalized, the city will replace it. We'll do necessary repairs on it. The benches we're looking at buying actually have a 20-year warranty. So if there is something that caused the bench some sort of difficulties that it needed to be replaced by the manufacturer, they would do that in that time period. But if there's anything else that we can do, we will make sure that that bench stays good for 15 years. And then at the end of that, we give the same person the opportunity to put another bench there, or if they don't want to, that spot would be back open for someone else to adopt a bench in that location. Right now, we're just kind of looking at this this is a different style of bench that we'd be using, and so we're just using that style in the Everybody Plays right now. The other vendor we've been using has, if you tried to order a bench today, you'd be waiting over a year to get it. You have about a 15-month waiting period, so the bench program has kind of died off a little bit because of that reason. So this is looking for a different vendor and a new process here.
So do you need like a head nod from the?
I think just a head
Council.
nod here. The Parks Board also saw this and recommended it.
Any objections, Council? I think you got that. Yeah,
That's all I have.
all right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I'm glad I bought my cemetery plot before we went to some kind of an agreement like that out at the cemetery. Man, get me planted and they'd be moving me somewhere. Or I'd have to, somebody'd have to renew the lease. Couldn't help that one. Okay, after you sit here a while, your mind does strange things. Mr. Schmidt, sorry, Chad Schreck, Creighton, I got on the wrong line again.
We haven't heard enough.
Makes them-
Because Beth Ann is going to help me out. History Mike, there was a hotel at the Oaks before the Oaks that didn't burn down either, right? Prospector? Prospect House.
Missed that one, you know.
You've been beaten.
I was only old enough to remember the Oaks.
Not bad. So thank you for that one, Beth Ann. Appreciate it. But no, I appreciate the time tonight, Your Honor, and council. Appreciate you guys. I appreciate all the activity again on the housing front and the work Scott and the team have done on that. Again, huge priority for the community, for the area, and phenomenal progress on those fronts. So appreciate the investments made by Sukups and Yanko and the Lake Time Development guys and all those that we've been working with. Very important projects for the community. Just a few things I'll touch on real quick. As a staff, I've mentioned in the past that we were going through the hiring process for a new workforce specialist. And we did make an offer here last week, and it was accepted by Casey Royster, who's been in HR with Mercy, actually. So that's a shared position between us and NIAC, so really looking forward to that. She was really dynamic. The entire committee was really, really impressed by her and her ability to lay out a plan and how she wanted to address those issues and help us with our K through 12 business to school partnerships and different things that we could help build together. So really, really looking forward to that. She'll start with us in NIAC here at the end of the month. So continuing to move that forward. Also continuing to search for a new marketing and communications specialist. So if you have any good candidates for us on that front, please let me know. We'll keep that open until we get some a couple of good candidates, and we'll start the interview process here, hopefully over the next 2 weeks to a month. Also, we're bringing on an old friend, Tim Putnam, who's been with the Papa John Center. He's going to come on a part-time basis, contract basis, to help us with their upcoming annual investor campaign. So he's going to be doing a little bit of prospecting for us and reaching out, trying to help with that. He's also joining our revolving loan fund committee as well. So putting Tim to work for us in a few capacities. But really appreciate him agreeing to come on and do that. It's very important for us. We've obviously seen a nice boost from the City of Clear Lake with hotel motel tax and continued progress there. City of Mason City is also increasing their funding, but we want to make sure that we're keeping our private side up and in keeping with what the communities are doing as well. So gonna do that more over the next 3 months with Tim and our campaign. Comprehensive planning process continues forward. Actually have another open house tomorrow for the community to attend at their Rockwell Community Center from 5 to 7. So that one's open countywide. We want to make sure that we are getting our smaller communities and folks involved in that as well. Just again, want to say how much we appreciate RDG. I think they've been a great partner. I know several of you have worked with them in a lot of capacities, including this process, but also the SURF district, and I think they've done a wonderful job on that. Really excited about some of the big picture things that they're helping us to look at and how we can attack those as a region, the partnerships between the city, the county. I think it's a big deal, and some of the things we're talking about on those entryways off of the interstate are really important. And I think you look at what we had and the number of people in town for an event like the Kite Festival or 4th of July, and they're coming through that entryway, and I think we can do a lot better job of welcoming people into that. So, and I think that's something that all three of the entities can partner on. So really excited to see the kind of things that they're putting together on that front to do that. Project-wise, it's been kind of a crazy 3 months. We've seen an incredible amount of warehousing and distribution type projects and businesses looking for space in that realm. So I've had anything from somebody looking for a 200,000 square foot building. They want to be within 30 miles of the Mason City Clear Lake area. And I can tell you that we don't have any open buildings of that size and scale. So we're trying to push more and more into the development side of that and seeing if they'd be open to build to suit. We've also had recent conversations for those that are looking to actually build one and have some tenants already spoken for. So trying to continue to move those conversations forward. Had some really nice interest in the Courtway Park development area. as well as the South Mason City Industrial Park for several of these. But I think over the last 3 months alone, we've had 5 of those type of leads, anywhere from 50 to 200,000 square foot warehouse and distribution type facilities. And part of that driver was kind of interesting. One of the ones said directly to us that it was the CERTA building. When that was open, he was involved in didn't get it, but they were involved in that. And just seeing the level of interest in that facility showed him that there was a significant need in our area. And so they want to do something about it. So trying to make those partnerships and see what we can make happen on that front. Also seeing the biotech side of things, renewable fuels continues to be a big area for us. We have 2 major projects that have essentially chosen us or have us in their final 2 that we hope to learn more on in the next 3 months as far as next steps for those. So continue to push hard on that front. And I've also had some really good leads from IEDA over the last couple of months as well. So a lot of project activity, a lot of interest in the area. It's been really encouraging to see the level of activity in light of some of the economic slowdown that we keep hearing about. It is not seeming to hit us in North Iowa, thankfully. So, also right now, actually, our friends from Pritchard Joe is doing a live story, live feed online about the Mason City Country Club, Legacy Golf Club, and their plans for that. So I'm going to try to jump on that right after this. But they've got some pretty cool things in the work over there as well. So a lot of fun things happening right now. Any questions for me?
Any questions, Council? Thank you, Chad. Mr. Flory.
Just real quick, Your Honor, a couple items. Wanted to let you know that our RAISE project application grant for the 4th Avenue South corridor project was submitted, was due on February 28th, so we got that in as another one of those, just like with the Surf District, we were kind of about, it had to be in about 5 o'clock, and we were in about 3, about the same thing with this. So again, another highly competitive project, so we'll see where it goes, but a really exciting opportunity there for us. So also just wanted to give you a heads up that there'll be some demolition work on the highway. They're at 800 and 808 Highway 18 East. So if you remember where they used to set up Krieger's floral shop there on the corner, kind of the northeast quadrant of that intersection there. Going to be taking down those two buildings there and eventually putting a little office complex up there. So should be starting on that demo here in about another 10 days. So. And that's all I got.
Everybody had enough?
Yep. We're ready to go.
Meeting adjourned.